When I think about Y2K, I think about optimism, like just the sheer optimism and audacity in what people thought they could wear. It was camp, it was sexy, it was audacious, it was tacky. And it was also a moment where, like, I don't know about y'all, but Y2K, like, people legit thought the world was gonna end.
Yeah. The millennium bug thing, when you look back, you're like, what were we thinking? Welcome back to Fashion Voices, the show that brings together the hearts and minds of the industry's greats for an unfiltered discussion on a new topic each week. I'm Susie Lau, fashion writer based in London, and this week we'll be talking about the resurgence and longevity of Y2K fashion. Joining us from New York is Jia Kwan, the powerhouse consultant and publicist behind brands such as Telfar, Puppets and Puppets, and Tekla. Also joining us from the Big Apple, we have Kimberly Drew, art curator and writer, former social media manager of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and co-editor of the anthology Black Futures. So, we are going to be talking about the resurgence of Y2K fashion. How would you both describe Y2K fashion, I guess, in your own nutshell?
I think about Y2K fashion as, sort of like that era between like the mid 90s to the 2000s. It kind of mixes pop culture and then it goes into the future. So I remember it was very distinct. I mean, I think there was definitely different evolutions of what Y2K style was.
And connected with so many things, not just fashion, but obviously like kind of segueing between entertainment, pop culture, and
the internet.
Fashion and the internet.
Yeah, big time internet moment.
What role has the internet played like in its actual resurgence today?
Well, I think that one of the things that is so indicative of social media culture in this moment is being like the most right and the most aware, right? And so there's like this kind of culture of this like Columbusing discovery, this kind of like, it was me, I found it, or like I'm sourcing this specific reference, it's mine now, I'm reclaiming it.
So actually, I do have this like whole kind of feeling about the Y2K where I love seeing it on like the way younger generation, like so people in their 20s, like people born like after 1990 basically, how they take it and where they take it, and it is like a different, like almost like a different lens on it. But because like I do remember it like the first time round, I have this almost like slight like not cringe but like yeah, basically cringe kind of factor like towards like just certain items, like certain like kind of like triggering things. Is there a generational difference between the people that lived through Y2K and the Gen Z people that are coming into it today?
I feel like there's a lot of more retrospective thing. As we were growing up, it was happening at the time and it kind of like moved so quickly. I remember Christina Aguilera's like Dirty music video just came out and I went to the mall the next day to buy the lowest.
You went for chaps? No, you didn't wear the Go chaps.
I went nearly chaps. And then I bought this like halter neck butterfly glittery top, and there was so much of my midriff showing that I could hardly keep my pants up. And then there was like a thong, and I was like 15 years old, and I feel like there is a lot more self-awareness now. I think at the time it was such an immediate effect on me that I don't even think I thought twice or like kind of went and curated it.
Yeah. The only thing I would add too is like there was this particular wave, not necessarily feminism, but like the era of girl power had us on lock, right? And I feel like in this moment, the younger generation of people across the spectrum of gender just don't have those same examples. It was like we were so much more invested in the sexuality of women. That's why we had this like extreme focus on Paris Hilton and Britney Spears and these folks, because there was like, yeah, this moment of identity and me, post-culture wars. I feel like especially young femmes of today are so easily tagged with being narcissists that it's almost like they can't do the same things that was done at the turn of that last century. Like there is so much more of like a self-conscious nature that I feel like young people have to contest with that we didn't necessarily have in the same way.
So we're seeing a lot of Y2K revivals, brands like Fiorucci coming back. Do you have any favorite Y2K comeback moments?
I did invest in my first ever
velour tracksuit. It was like by Adriana Haute Couture. She had embellished Gia on the back of my tracksuit pants. And surprisingly, I've never had Juicy Couture or any kind of velour tracksuit in my life. So I was really proud of that purchase. And I wore it with a vintage Chanel bag that I found on Depop. It was the same bag that Paris Hilton wore for like one of her MTV awards in the 2000s. That little blue one with the white chain.
Good find.
That was a good find.
And I love that you went, you did Juicy without doing Juicy.
Yeah.
that's very you, Gia. Very well done. Well done. Kimberly, best Y2K outfit moment.
I was gonna say I brought for like my show and tell these little Nanushka glasses that I just got, and they bring me like an unfathomable joy in terms of thinking about like the little glass trend of the Y2K moment, and then also what it means to be an adult and try these things in a different way. Like in the 2000s, I was in my teenage years as well, like Gia. And it just felt like everything was so out of reach because it was also like this particular brand of womanhood that I was like, I am not there yet. And also like, my mom is not down for this get down. Like we are not going, we're not going and like buying all this ridiculous stuff. And also we're not going to go like super, super sexy, midriff exposed. That would be like the end all be all. But I'm excited to see like those little things come back.
Who were your personal Y2K icons and their best looks?
Paris Hilton was like a big thing for me at the time. She embodied Y2K so much because I feel like it was also this idea of like self-branding that kind of birthed out at the time. Layering of the monograms, like the customization of the bling of her phone, of the Von Dutch hats, with her Juicy Couture tracksuits.
When I think about Y2K fashion, I think of Halle Berry, I think of the thong. I wish for every person what it felt like to get, presumably your first thong in the 2000s, because I was like, this is it. Like, this is sex. I am in my moment, And it's something as simple as like those garments of that time where you were like, or even the butterfly clips, you're like, I am officially a bad. It doesn't matter what else I'm doing. In this moment, I can don this thing and it will transport me into another moment. Or even like I got my first like mini bag recently and I was like, I would have killed someone for like a Dooney and Bourke bag at that time.
Playing devil's advocate, are we looking at that Y2K period with rose-tinted glasses?
I think a lot about, especially the women of that time, like we were talking about girl groups, thinking about artists like Little Kim or thinking about Mary J. Blige and how those women and the stylists that they worked with, or even the work of June Ambrose or Misa Hilton, a lot of those women, Tina Knowles Lawson, had to make the outfits for their artists because these fashion houses did not allow people of color to wear their clothing. And I think that ingenuity, to not talk about that would be a mistake in this conversation of Y2K. It's that ingenuity that also breeds that individual kind of take on those things where you can refuse like the Fendis of the world or the saddlebag, but then you also might make your own because you wanted to make it in your own image because you wanted to have that garment or thing that electrified your life.
That is such a, interesting point that I was also thinking about, that there is this sort of aspect of empowerment and DIY like embedded in that actually today also feel like aspirational values in themselves.
I will just add that one of the things that I find to also be very distinct about this time is that it is a time where we are more dialogical with our brands in a completely unprecedented way. There are these moments that happen where you see a mistake that is made by a major company and there is this immediate backlash. There is this investment in the supply chain and how these things are constructed in a way that I don't know that we had the language or the tools to be asking those questions in the Y2K moment. We want to keep the same energy of nostalgia and audacity of the Y2K, but then also try not to repeat those same mistakes that we were making at that time.
I think that brings us to a nice conclusion of our Y2K deep dive. I had such a blast doing it. Thank you so much, Gia, Kimberly, thank you. If you've liked what you've seen, please subscribe to the FARFETCH YouTube channel and don't forget to leave your comments in the box below.